And we are back with the grand finale of Rooster Fighter, and I'm here with the one and only,
Cameron Thomas fighting clips.
the GOAT, the legend. He was there from the start till the very end, at least it seems for now. What were your thoughts about episode 12, the final episode?
Well, I got a lot of thoughts to talk about it, I will say. So, first of all, I will say it is kind of crazy for the final episode. I've been going over how many chapters are adapted in each episode. This one does 1.5 chapters because it finishes off that chapter that it left off a half, and then it adapts an extra chapter. Then that's it. That's the whole adaptation of this episode, which I think is just crazy to think about that they decided to do it that way. What I think is even crazier that they decided to do was that it all, and me and him were talking about it, how very little animation is in this compared to others where we have a big long credits roll that does the slideshow of all the graphics that they did, graphic art that they did for the season where it would just pause on like a random graphic art. I thought that was extremely weird that they did that. And just recently we got a chapter 60. And what was crazy to me is that this leaves off of chapter 30 of volume 7. And I think it's crazy that it has actually adapted half of the manga already, which is crazy to think about and kind of making me think, yeah, it might be a while until we get the season 2. And now I wouldn't be surprised if we got an announcement at Anime Expo in July because that's usually where all the big anime usually gets announcements for, whether it's a new show or new season or whatever. I actually think if we're ever going to see an announcement, it's going to be there because the first season was announced at Anime Expo last year at that convention. And I think if they play their cards right, it could do it the same way. And not only that, it was shown at Annecy Film Festival as well. So that could be a possibility as well. But I'm not expecting it to be announced anytime soon, to be honest with you. I think they're waiting till that training arc is done. That way they have enough material for season 2. But from what it looks like, it seems like they're kind of gearing towards this series to be at least be 2 to 3 seasons max. I think they're trying to make this series to be as short and simple as possible. That way, it's one of the most rewatchable animes. And I think that is perfect in its own right because this was a manga series that ended up getting so many people into manga. This was like a starter type series where it didn't take itself too seriously, where you had to pay attention fully, but you also didn't have to be bored throughout the whole thing. You got some gags here and there. And it was just the perfect series for beginners to begin with. Uh, and I think this could be that they're trying to make this the perfect starter anime for their studio because, like, all studios pretty much have their own starter anime. Like, Science Saru has Don, Toei has Dragon Ball, wherever you like it or not, that's pretty much their starter anime. Or Digimon, you can say that. Uh, Studio Period, that's pretty much Naruto at this point. Like, pretty much all these studios try to get like that starter series for people to get into their studio. That way, it's a short and sweet series that is easy to get into, but it's not overcomplicated as well. And I think that's what they're trying to go for, is that they don't want to overbloat us with parts of seasons where it's season two, core one, season two, season two, core three, and then finally get us the third season. Like, I don't think we're going to get that. I think what they're going to do is keep the pacing to continue on, because I will say the pacing for the show is 10 times better than most anime this season. I will say this was a pretty good paced show where it didn't feel over bloated, but it also didn't feel too quick. It was like a perfect pace for this kind of manga, because I will say the manga does drag here and there, especially later on. Like the chapters get longer and longer, and you can see them kind of struggling, trying to learn how to adapt these longer chapters while keeping up the pacing and quality. And I think that's what kind of hurt me for like the final part of this season, is that the pacing was all over the place. And like the final parts, when we finally get to the devils and the Pyoko type stuff, that's kind of where the stuff kind of gets messy and sploshy in some places, because they were trying to work very hard not to go too slow pace, but also not going too fast pace, because they realize, oh, wait, we're getting too close to that training arc, but we're also getting too close to where we can't even make a season two. And it will take like 10 years till we get the season two. And then nobody pretty much watches it then. And I would definitely hate for, I'm glad that they didn't do that where they ended up having this be 24 episodes, and it just ended up adapting all the manga up to the training arc, and then that was our anime. Like, I didn't want that. I wanted something that was very good pace, but I can understand these longer chapters were harder to adapt. Another thing I will say is that the animation from the start was a little wonky at times, I will say. Like, we did have a bunch of CGI mistakes and everything where the CGI was wonky. Sometimes the CGI went through the other assets, like the ground, for example, when that one demon melted in that second episode. That was kind of weird, where he just looked too much like Jello at that point. It was definitely not well animated for that scene. But then but as the animators got on, they got better at the CG, I will say. And I will say this studio isn't known for doing CG animation, because I was wondering, what is this studio? And I can't even actually say the name because it is that complicated to say, but it's like Sun Gaze or something like that. And the weird part is that this is pretty much like their first, or if not one of their first CG animes. And I can tell that because they were just learning how to do the CG. And that is a thing that anime is just trying to do. They're trying to get towards what the Chinese can do, what China can do, where they can do fluent, awesome looking 3D animation, which I will say, if you have not seen anything that is a Chinese anime, all you gotta know, it is top tier stuff where it is better than our CG or any 3D animation that we have, because they know how to make someone look realistic without looking uncanny. It literally looks like a PS5 game. It's just that insane. And the the crazy part is that that studio, the China, is better at CG than 2D, but Japanese is better at 2D than 3D. And Japanese is trying to get to that point where they can eventually get cool animation like how To Be Hero X and stuff like that is. Like they're trying to get that top tier of what people were saying in 2025 because everybody was watching Chinese animation and everything. So they're trying to get to that point where they can compete with China. But what I will say is Japanese has better written anime, is what it is, than China because they're pretty much always martial arts, mythology type series. That it's always all over the place. And I just can't get into it sometimes. But what I will say is that for what they tried, they did a good job. And I will say, as for how Toonami marketed this stuff, because that's another thing I want to ramble about. The Toonami type marketing and stuff, marketing is a big thing for me because usually that is what makes me want to watch a series or not. I saw like the trailer from Annecy Film Festival and Anime Expo. They that trailer was like, I saw it and I was like, oh, well, I've seen this manga here and there. I had read it at the time, but then I watched it and I was like, okay, an anime about a chicken. I'll watch it. I was like, no matter what, I'll watch it because I like random weird plots that we don't get in like America. When you get to an anime that is way too close to what America gets, it it doesn't hit the same. And that's mostly why I relate to more older anime because they were just so niche and crazy back then. And they would just come up with like the weirdest ideas ever. And now we get mostly the same exact stuff over and over and over again. But what I will say is that how Toonami and Adult Swim marketed this did 10 times better than what Disney and Hulu did. I don't know why Hulu and Disney are allergic to marketing their anime that they buy because you bought the thing. Why aren't you marketing it to get that money back? It's almost like they put it on their streaming service and they're like, it's here. Watch it if you want. We don't care. We're just going to get another show that is probably going to replace its popularity for a little bit. And then it's just ended up. And that's why most of them die on Hulu.
Funny
And
enough, there's a reason. They're about to have their own basically anime. I still think it's technically a cartoon, but I think an anime studio was a part of this. You know the one I'm talking about, it's a soccer one.
yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
But no, it's fine. Uh And the crazy part is Disney doesn't even know how to market their anime because like they have announced that they're doing like three different Disney Wonderland type animes that is like a twisted version on like the Disney classics we know, and they don't market those either. That's another thing. Crunchyroll for some reason does a better job marketing those than Disney does, which to me I'm like, if it's on Disney Plus, wouldn't you want to get people to watch it? And it's the same thing with like their Star Wars Visions anime series where they didn't market that either, and Crunchyroll didn't do it because they didn't own it. So that pretty much only got popular because like of those what's next on Disney Plus type stuff. That was like the only marketing, which is pretty much what it is now for Disney. It it is very strange on how they rather let a show die on their streaming service than actually market it and hope that it becomes a successful series. Like, and I'm wondering if Disney is holding back Hulu on the marketing and stuff, saying it's not worth and everything, which I could see that happening too because like I saw more marketing with Hulu back when I was a kid than it was when it is now. And I feel like Disney has pretty much taken over Hulu saying, hey, you can only market the stuff that we make, not the stuff you get on your streaming service. And like, even when they get their Cartoon Network stuff, they don't market it like crazy, which is another problem with them. Uh, but Adult Swim and Toonami did a very good job with this. Like I can kind of see what Steve Blum was actually thinking when he got this. He probably read the manga knowing that he is an anime nerd and is a manga nerd. He consumes this stuff like we do. And I'm pretty sure he saw and read this manga about chicken knowing him because he loved the most crazy outlandish stuff to just put on Toonami. I think once he read it, he was like, okay, if this ever becomes a thing that I can make into an anime at some point, or if I can get it from Viz or something like that, I'll put it on there. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. He was impressed by the manga and he fought for it because he has said many times if the show seems like not slop at all and is actually a really good show from animation and story standpoint, he will fight for the rights for that show. Like he has done it time and time after again. And I will say he did a fantastic job with the promos and everything. Each promo, what kind of got me hyped, not on the levels of what they did with Ninja Kamui, where they actually showed off some cool ninja fighting animation and stuff like that. They did more like brief teases of what the manga does. I think they pretty much didn't know what to show off and what not to show off because really most of the stuff that they were just showing was kind of the stuff where the episode would leave off of a cliffhanger and it would show like the first part of after that cliffhanger. And it to me that's not really much of a sneak peek. That's more of giving us context of what happened next. And I just really don't like it when they do that. It's better when you show off like maybe an action scene or something. I think they're doing a better job with Dawn to Dawn than what they are with Rooster Fighter, which I think is very, very weird. But again, they probably just don't know how to market this to a wider audience. And another thing I absolutely hate is how Viz does their marketing with this anime. Boy, oh boy, they spent more time marketing this than any other thing this season, and I mostly think it's because it was airing on television. I think they were hyping up like that was a big deal, like this was a big thing, and they were pretty much making it like, yeah, we made this happen. But most of the time, they were marketing it to be, hey, it's on Hulu, but they didn't say go check it out on Toonami, which I feel like you should do both. Like I don't know what was the issue there, if Disney kind of sabotaged that or whatever, but I really am so mad of how that worked out because it's almost like Disney wants Toonami to die almost, and they don't want the Hulu animes, which I haven't seen a Hulu anime on Toonami now thinking about it. So it could be a Disney thing that is happening because Disney does at times where if they find something that could hurt their reputation, they will find a way to bribe companies and give them money just to not market something. Like they did it with Shrek when it was coming out when they saw that they were making fun of Disney type stuff. They paid toy companies, the major toy companies, not to get this, and they would make a deal with them to make Disney toys that were coming out in 2001. So it was really bad where Shrek had to go to a low budget independent toy company for their marketing and everything. But it worked out because they catered it more to adults than kids. So that was another good thing about it. But what I will say is that Disney probably made them be like, hey, we'll let you market your dub, but you're going to have to market it to Hulu. You can't do it to Adult Swim because we don't own that. And we don't want you to market that. And I will say, there were times where the creator did say, check it out on Toonami. So it's almost like Viz probably couldn't say it, but the creator didn't care.
It's probably
And
under
he just
contract.
said it. Yeah. And not only that, I think originally, because Viz was doing their marketing mostly through community posts and YouTube shorts and Twitter posts. When it came to the creator, he went to Viz with these shorts and everything and kept on saying, check it out on Hulu and on and live on Toonami. And I think that was pretty interesting on how he was not regulated, but they weren't. It's probably because he was the creator of the series, so he probably had the right where he said, it's my series. I can make you get. I can get rid of it because I can kind of see him threatening that because most creators they always want to go for these anime. They want to make these manga into anime. They really want their series to turn into anime. It's like a dream come true to see it live on TV, but your creation is now fully animated and it's no longer just random pages of drawings in a book. And I think that is just awesome to know that is just what Japan does. And the sad part is that now with this all happening, pretty much I'm pretty sure Toonami doesn't get to own the anime. So like it might be the only time we ever see them rerun the episodes, um, which is next week. I think they really can't show much Rooster Fighter anymore unless they pay a contract fee. And because if you think about it, who owns the streaming rights? It's Disney. And they probably own most of it, and they probably just paid it like just any other anime just to stream it. And I think that's kind of sad on its own because I really thought this was one of the better Toonami animes than most of them because they're pretty much hit or miss when it comes to things, but it's all right. As for the character development, the journey, and everything, I would actually change. I wouldn't change much, but how they paced it and everything, I did hate, and I hate how it is in the manga, where they juggle different character stories in several different chapters, and we can't just focus on individual ones. Which, okay, it's fine, but I think they could have maybe put two like storyline. I If I was them, I would probably put a an A plot and a B plot pretty much where they're able to adapt because we saw them skipping around through chapters and everything. And I thought that was pretty interesting on its own, but they wouldn't like create maybe a B plot or something. Like for instance, when Pyoko goes and fights off those lizards and everything, you could have had that while you had a filler scene that was like a B plot where we get some more development with Elizabeth and Keiji. I think that would be would have been pretty cool. Then we could have seen them interact. Where's Pyoko and them trying to search for her, and then you kind of had more character development than what the initial manga did. But I can understand they wanted to go more manga accurate type stuff. And I will say Toonami did a really good job with, you know, the bumpers and everything. I thought that was pretty good. Um, Another thing I would say is that um, the voice acting for all the characters, they actually sounded like how I expected them to sound like. Except for Kizuki, I didn't know what he was supposed to be. I thought he was supposed to be elderly. I didn't know he was like his little brother. So, and especially since he had a crazy haircut, I couldn't tell what he was. And so when I found out he was younger, and I forgot he was his little brother because they barely even say it, and it happens, and then I was like, oh wait, he's his little brother. I forgot about that. And but they did a really good job picking their voice actors and everything. And I do think that was a good factor of what they did. Um, I will say, for the cliffhanger for this, where it's a bit set up, I wasn't too big of a fan of it. Like, there is a little bit more stuff after this because I was looking to see what happens afterwards because I had to get a refresher. And what it is that it's another like, and I think they're gonna do this for the opening scene. I could just see this happening for the opening scene, and then we get the new intro, and then it plays out the rest of the episode. They fight another demon afterwards because they go to like another part of the city, and then they fight off a demon, and it's very quick, and then they do some research, and of course his dad finally wakes up. That's when his dad wakes up after that. I feel like it would have been cool just to see them fight another demon. It just would have been cool. But I will say the whole thing where he was actually uh saying I'm coming for you. The line was changed though, where he says the white demon, oh, white demon, I'm coming for you. He doesn't say that in the manga. He said he does a One Piece reference where he says, uh, white demon, I'm gonna kick your A word. And that's literally what he says. It's pretty much supposed to be like an OG One Piece reference of how that's what Luffy would always say. It was pretty much his catchphrase. And I actually thought that would have been a funny way to end it. But of course, they didn't go for that route, which I think is very strange. And not only that, I probably would have added some filler fight scenes or something, or maybe the game just having a big party at the end. That would have been pretty cool. Uh, just something in the middle there where it doesn't feel like we didn't have much animation in the last episode. I think if you really did it, I think you could have put a little filler in the episode and people wouldn't mind it because it's the end of the series and you want kind of a happy ending. Why not have them have a big party and then have that big epic cliffhanger? I think that would have been pretty cool. But I'm also wondering if they changed that cliffhanger as well. Because when I looked at the website last week, it said it literally told the cliffhanger, which I think is just the stupidest thing to say. And it literally said that was going to reveal another chicken and as a silhouette. And then oh, it was gonna cock, is what it was. And I was like, that is so weird because in like the manga, they don't have another Rooster yet. And I was like, was that a thing that maybe the creator was originally going to put in to tease something that was going to happen in the manga? Probably. I think that would have been insane. But again, why was that even on the website if you changed it?
Could have been a
It,
leak. It could have been a leak.
yeah, it probably could have. Who knows? But for some reason, it was on the official page, which I think is 10 times weirder. But I think it was very strange on how they really did this episode. But I will also add they did cut out a scene which I think could have maybe added more to the episode where we could have had more animation. They cut out a scene and it's the weirdest scene. I was like, okay, maybe they're gonna put it in like the rerun at 3 o'clock. Oh well, 3:30, and I was like, oh, it has to be there. No, the episode just played the same as the premiere, which I thought was 10 times weirder because sometimes I notice certain changes here and there. But when I was watching it, when I was reading it, it showed Elizabeth trying to get KG's father back, is what it is. And what it does in the anime is that she realizes he's not breathing and then it cuts. In the manga, she's like, he's not breathing. And then what happens is that she first she bounces on her, which did happen, but then she electrocutes him to as like one of those pulse machines and everything. And then he coughs up water out of him and then starts breathing again. And then she's like, oh, he's alive. But how they did it was is that she's bouncing on him and then that's how the water came out. But they didn't really show him like I didn't even hear a sound effect or anything of him like breathing hardly. And she just says, oh, he's alive. And I was like, are you sure? I don't hear him breathing. And I mostly am thinking if that was a mistake in like the dub, probably, which is rare for me to find. It's just so weird how they do this kind of stuff. And especially, I will say, how they did everything with that just shows you how you just don't know what to expect when they're adapting things. And I will say with the whole uh that I forget what the devil's name, the devil's the sun devil that was shown up. He was actually his backstory. I will say in the manga they go over they overly explain things. That's what it is, and they don't cut it like what in the anime does, where we get the first part and then we get the second part. I do like how this version we get it all at once. Oh, wait, not all at once. We get it halfway, and not only that, it's very slow, but it's also very informative. And how and I will say that was more heartbreaking than what the manga tried to do. Because with like the manga, I was like, okay, this is kind of just weird in my opinion. And it's just something that when you hear like certain like screams and everything, it really hits you. And when he was like in pain,
Was it Akari?
yeah, that was him. Yeah, Hikari. Uh, when I heard him in pain, that just hit deep. Like that voice actor did a fantastic job when he was supposed to scream in pain. And not only that, afterwards he says, it happened for a month. I was like, you just outdid it, uh, Viz. You just outdid it. And not only that, you almost feel bad for him. And so far, from my understanding, he has not returned yet. I could be wrong about that, but he has not returned, which I am thinking now that the anime's out, he'll probably show up at some point because it's like a heavy reminder and everything. But I thought his whole thing was actually really good. And how he was still controlling the good demons and he was going to help them rebuild the village that they destroyed. Thought that was awesome as well. But the thing that I thought was the highlight of this episode was probably the whole KG's power up and the Mario stuff. That was probably the number one thing to take away from this episode. And the sad part is that is one of the least shown things in this episode. Uh, this whole arc was made to set up KG's power up arc, pretty much. How he has this old unlimited power, and then it was supposed afterwards, after this, supposed to show him trying to adapt to this new awakening, is what it is. He's trying to learn this new awakening and everything to see if he is able to maybe get a third awakening because he's trying to get the strongest he can be to beat the white demon. And of course, we constantly see him using this power. And of course, with Kizuki keeping his mouth shut, it is very frightening towards Pyoko and Elizabeth, because they're like, he has so much aura now that it, I see anger. He could go evil, and that is like a big plot point that actually happens. But the creator didn't really go all the way with it, in my opinion. He didn't go and show us like maybe a KG that has like zero limit, but where he is just done and he wants to kill anyone that is in front of him. I think that would have been cool, like how what Super Saiyan Goku was originally, where he was supposed to be like this being that had no limit and he was like unbeatable and he would kill anything that was in front of him. And then, in Cell saw that he downgraded it because he felt like that wasn't what Goku really was. I felt like that could have been a great way to do it. And I was expecting the anime to kind of go to that arc and end it, where, because it's in the intro, it is spoiled. His second awakening. So you would expect the second awakening to be a big part of it, but they don't use it. And when he does use it, again, it's only for like a few, like, it's just there and it's done. Like, it's just not it. I really feel like if they waited just a little bit longer, we could have got maybe a good ending where we got that full second awakening part of the manga. And I kind of wish we got that, but of course we didn't. And I think that just will make a lot of people who don't know the manga be like, well, I'm not someone that reads manga. I don't want to read it. And now I have this big question of what was even that. And then you have people starting to Google stuff and then getting the wrong information. And then eventually they're going to get the wrong idea of what his second awakening really is when all they had to do was read the manga. But I can understand some people don't like black and white mangas. But I just really thought it could have been better adapted, and maybe we could have gotten him to use it a little bit more than what the manga did. But again, they were trying to be manga accurate, so who cares? Um, I will say, with Mario and everything, uh, in the manga, I actually thought he was dead, and I actually forgotten that he wasn't dead because he doesn't show up in like a good while because like they get rid of him for like a good bit, and I don't know if he has returned yet or not. It's been so long, but the way they did it, and it's supposed to be a moment where you're like, oh, he's not dead, yay! But they made it more comedic than what the manga did, and that's probably due to the line deliveries and everything, where they're trying to sound manga accurate when really they can barely even do they barely do that. Um, I will say, seeing Pyoko literally scream, "Ah, Mario's a zombie," that just cracked me up to death. I thought that was pretty much the funniest thing Pyoko did this episode. But I will say, I could see when I was watching this, I noticed something very similar. And it was like a tonal shift in her character that I did not notice before. So from like the beginning, she was supposed to be like this really cute character. And then as the series goes on, I've been noticing she's becoming more and more of a gag character. Now, there's nothing wrong with gag characters. It's just that she seemed more of a chopper like character to me, where she was useful, but she had some funny bits here and there. But she wasn't all the, and not only that, she was the cute character, but she wasn't all around just goofy and silly and everything. And they kind of changed her into like an Anya Forger type character, where she barely does anything relevant to the story. She just mostly does all the gag type stuff to keep the younger viewers in, just to be watching and just invested in the story, which I just don't know how to feel about that now, knowing that. I actually could see some people actually getting annoyed by Kyoko, like some people do with Anya. I, I didn't get annoyed by her. It's just, I could see some people saying, Pyoko was way better in those early episodes than the later episodes. It's kind of like what happens when a creator gets too invested in like a certain character and then likes a certain trait of that character rather than the whole part of it, and changes the character to that one trait. And I will say, eventually she will get her power up, of course, because of the training art. But for the most part, she is just a gag character for most of the time. When looking at that Kyoko episode, when I said that most people will probably think it's filler, if you really think about it, most of the time she's doing gags that here and there and just trying to look cute. I could see somebody being annoyed and wanting this white demon thing to be actually shown and everything and get more lore out of it rather than following Pyoko on like this journey to become strong and to show Keiji that she can do something all by herself without any help. And I will say, uh, that's not the anime's fault, but I will say the anime kind of did over exaggerate what those scenes were than what the manga was. But I will say, if I had to tell based on my enjoyment, I would give this definitely a 10 out of 10. The whole thing is just pure enjoyment. I had a big smile on my goofy face. I just had nothing but a good time throughout the whole thing. As for an adaptation, I would say, yeah, it's pretty good as an adaptation, but it's not one to one fully. I would give it a 9.8, mostly because they do skip around and speed through some manga chapters, especially that one episode where they tried to adapt an entire volume. Why would you do that? I don't know why. And finally, based on what I would rate the series as a whole, I would probably give it a 9 or an 8. But purely for enjoyment reasons, and that I'm always just gonna look at this as like a great series and how it actually gave me some memories just watching every episode every night, doing these reviews with you guys and Cartoon Animation Fan. Like, that was just probably the best part about it. So my enjoyment is always going to be a 10 out of 10 because I just love this manga and everything. But as a core of just the show alone, it, it's not supposed to be something anything special. It's more of a nine than anything. But pure enjoyment standards and adaptation standards, it's far out good. Would I recommend it to like someone that had never watched an anime? Definitely not. I think there's better starter anime than this. Like, I think you should show them something that is more action packed and less comedic before this, because I can see somebody looking at the CGI and wanting to go back to the days where they didn't even have a CGI show when they were a kid. Like, I can see that actually happening. But as for pure uh, anime fans that have watched like a lot of anime and are nerds of anime, I think you could get a lot of enjoyment out of it if you give it the chance it needs, especially if you're someone that can catch the references and everything. I think that could be a good point if to let you keep on going. If you don't like the story, you could keep on going just to catch all the references and everything. See if you can catch all the Easter eggs and everything. Like, it's just, I think that would be like a good thing for somebody to do. But if you're just someone that rather have something like Demon Slayer or Attack on Titan or something like that, this is definitely not for you. This is more of one of those people that just like the dumb fun type stuff, like Rama 1.5 and Dragon Ball, and then on top of that, One Piece at times, like just stuff like that, where it's not trying to be new and inventive, but it's also trying to be different than others. If I had to give something that was similar to this anime, I would say definitely One Punch Man season one. This show was way more like that show. The atmosphere was way more like it, where pretty much it's a place you don't want to be in because almost every day there's something catastrophic happening where a building explodes or something like that, or someone's car gets flipped over and you're always getting under attack. It's one of those type shows where you just don't know what's going to happen next. And only that is goofy and silly because you have characters of where One Punch Man is literally a bald superhero that is literally dumb to the core. You have the world relying on chickens to save their lives. It's just something that should never be taken seriously, but man, is it the most enjoyable thing you'll ever probably get in your life.
I agree. That was, yeah, he went into a lot of it. But whenever it comes to me looking at episode 12, I was a bit underwhelmed and I was definitely disappointed with the ending. It's almost like Viz didn't want to take the chance in case this never gets finished. They do hint at a possibility of a continuation, but it's done in a way to where this could be an ending, and I thought that was weird. They're very fond in this series because I was even checking out their websites. They have a Rooster Fighter tab. There's already Rooster Fighter Funko Pops even before the series released. On top of that, I'm trying to think, was there other merchandise? I don't know. The big thing is the channel has been trying to show this series more than a lot of the other originals. You could see this on Fridays, Sunday nights, and that is wild. That is telling you, hey, this is the show we're trying to get out there. And in a way, it does heavily kind of mimic what Adult Swim and Toonami is, especially with the Rooster. I see Rooster Fighter almost as a novelty, but it's that action comedy that is really hot right now. But I do see some flaws in it, and it's not because of the actual anime itself. It's really a good anime. I do think they, like you said, there's probably some adaptation problems, but I think the writer, this is his first series, correct?
Yes, it is. It's his first and only series right now.
Yeah, I do think a lot of this comes from him as a writer, not really knowing what exactly to do. And I feel like that's why a lot of this is kind of iffy. It's kind of, I'm not going to say it's a pyramid, but it's a bit mid. It's almost like Lazarus had a better storyline in a sense, but at the same time, it's like it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. Like I don't know how to explain it. It's like right in the middle to where like Ninja Kumi can only do one thing really good. Lazarus really did one thing good, and everything else was kind of eh. It just kind of fell apart. But this one, everything is so compiled in the middle that it made it a really solid series in my book. Um, I wasn't exactly too crazy about the power-ups. Now, KG's was pretty cool, but in a way, he's gonna share it's like Shadow. It kind of reminded me of Sonic and that type of power. It's like an aura, and they just run through things. And I'm sure I can get into it. We got to see the training arcs because I think there's gonna be more cool stuff. It just didn't have the time. There wasn't enough there. They really were trying to speed run this. You can definitely tell that this manga was hot and they wanted to get a series out. They thought the merchandise was going to be flying off the shelves. And I want to think it's doing pretty good, but it's a hard market. Right now, the biggest advantage was what other original series was going to do better. This was probably the best one. Name another one.
Another thing I would say is I can see that the creator could see how people react to the anime
Hmm.
and how the story goes and everything, and consider the flaws that they had with that story to make the story continue to be better in the manga. So when that gets adapted, it's 10 times better. Then people can look back, well, it didn't have a strong start, but it eventually became something greater, which I think is a show that should always be what they're trying to gear towards. And when I think of shows like that, I rather it have an off beginning and a better and a greater of and greater throughout than greater at the beginning and then slowly dying off and then ended up not being the great that it could be.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree with
Eh,
that. So, go ahead.
I also think for like the manga going forward, I think as the manga goes forward, I kind of have knowing that this is like half of the manga already. I am wondering how this felt more like an act one.
Hmm.
I am wondering if like after like the whole training art, that's the whole act two that is done, and then we get into act three, and that would be like him going up against the White Demon. I am wondering if we're getting towards the end of the manga because I can kind of see this being more of a short series because there's 60 chapters already. usually a good manga is, and a popular manga is at least 100 chapters or more. That's usually the goal and everything. And we only have 40 chapters left until the 100 mark. I can actually see him actually trying to go for that 100 mark, but kind of stopping near like the 110 mark or the 150 mark. I don't see this story going on for 1,000 chapters like One Piece or something like that. Like this is definitely not that kind of series. This is more of a series that doesn't have much world building, so it should be more shorter in a way that so it ain't overly used in a way where it's oversaturated. And because what are you going to do when they're just in Tokyo? Does this mean you have to make them go to different countries as well? Then the creator has to do research on those countries. And then it gets too complicated for him where he could get burned out and put the whole manga on hiatus. And last thing we need is another Hunter x Hunter on our hands where who knows when it's going to finish. And but most manga nowadays is 100 or more chapters, and I can see this being at least 150 chapters from the way we're going because it is slowly getting to the point where we're done with the whole training arc and everything. Like Elizabeth has recently just finished her training, and that all that leaves is Kizuki and Pyoko left, and then the dad as well. So really, that pretty much makes the manga almost done, and I think that is like a good sign that we could see a season two and a season three back to back, and I think that could show like hype starting up for the series again.
Yeah,
And
you never know though. Like during the marathon, they could show a preview.
I can kind of see that they could show some kind of like that leak that I saw. That could be where that actually shows up. Now thinking about it, that I did kind of look to see if maybe it's on like the Hulu version or something. So I went on an anime website, went to the sub because it's not on. Adult Swim's not doing the sub; they're only doing dub. I looked at the sub. There was nothing at the end. So I am wondering if they're gonna have like a PV type short animation thing at the end of like the marathon and everything. I think what they could have done for like a good tease is maybe have us do like what a Sakamoto Days Core 2 kind of thing did,
Yeah,
where at the end of the series, we get short little things of them animating the next arc in season two.
yeah,
I think that could have been better if they did something like that because I know that probably isn't much animation to put into. It was probably animated by one guy, to be honest with you, and I bet that would be like super cheap way to make a cliffhanger or tease at the next. That's so people aren't like thinking, oh, this is a one and done type thing and we're never going to get a continuation. Because I think leaving it off where it's probably not going to get a continuation really ruins it. Because again, this didn't have that social media trending thing like what Kachakuda did or something like that, or Donadon. Now, it did on like Twitter and stuff, but it wasn't like people outside of the anime fan base and the Toonami fan base community type stuff. It was mostly that Toonami fan base that was like trending that kind of stuff.
yeah,
And if you notice, it was only when it was premiering on Adult Swim. It wasn't when it was premiering on like Saturdays or Sunday nights. I did not see any trending like that or anything like or anything to be honest with you of them posting anything like that. But who knows? Maybe this series will most likely get a season two, I believe, because just how the manga is going so far, it is
It's gotta.
trucking along really quickly. Not only that, it has fantastic animation now that they have gotten to the point where they know how to animate it perfectly. I think they just nailed it to where season two can definitely be better than season one, which most anime season two are better than the season one, most definitely.
Yeah. And I feel like there's just something you're gonna see, it's the writer. He's got to get that experience, and I think that's something we're gonna see from moving forward. Because I don't know what chapter we're on, but I'm sure he's improved quite a bit from here. Um, yeah, the man is legendary. He definitely had something that no one is expecting. And going back to it, I mean, like, as far as original series, number ones, that's why the reason why Viz probably went really hard. There's no competition. It's the perfect season to take the chance. Toonami had that chance. And while it wasn't the biggest hitter of all time, it was definitely the thing that stood out the most, in my opinion. I mean, it was cool. Um, there was some lackluster when it comes to the actual like merchandise. I went on the Viz shop, it was just like four t-shirts, and I'm like, man, it takes forever for them to like release the like physical copies, but I'm like, why aren't you already doing pre-orders for the first season, like right out the gate, plus the special editions? I feel like that would be such a smart idea. And Toonami could even do it. I mean, like, you're missing out. And I don't know. I don't know. Either way, I do think this is going to get season two because I think Toonami's going to push it anyway. I think Viz sees it as an asset. It's unique. It's novelty. Like I said, it's very novelty in the sense that it's this action comedy with Rooster. Rooster funny. That's what it got to be. But at the end of the day, Rooster Fighter, Rooster Fighter, bit of a parody, but at the heart, it is serious. It is serious in a comedy, and I think it's lovable. Another side note: what they did with Mario, I couldn't care for. Rather than not fake Mario's death, just keep him there. Just keep Bro on the sideline helping him. I mean, like, or if you're gonna kill him, do it in a way that actually shocks us. I wasn't that shook. I was like, this feels so dumb. Why would you do Bro like that? Outside of that, I thought the episode was fair. Drop some lore about the devil and about how, you know, his mom, something happened to her, and then he was kind of like brainwashed by the lady that looked like his mom. And he wanted to go help all the people, so he's not like this good character after he gets took out of that form or whatever, out of the brainwashing. And I'm just like, okay, that's fine. I'll take it as it is. I was thinking maybe this is gonna be the guy that trains KG and Kizuki and the others. I mean, that would make somewhat sense, but I already, from what you're saying, there's probably been another rooster to do that, more than likely.
Yeah. I will say, as for merchandise, I do feel like this Viz needs to make some like figures and stuff because once an anime actually makes figures and stuff, they made it big. I think once we start seeing some figures of the characters,
Yeah,
uh, it just gives more confirmation that yeah, they are going to make a season two. It's just in the matter of when they're going to do it, and it would kind of give us more hope. Uh, as for the Mario type stuff, I do feel like what the creator was trying to do, and really in the manga, what he was really trying to do was kind of show us that uh, since his demon desire was to make sure that guy didn't die, and that so he could live on in his version, So like pretty much what he was trying to show was that Mario was pretty much like Deadpool. He's invincible. He cannot die at
yeah,
all. And But the way the anime did it, it just did not hit right. It was just too comedic, is what it was, and I feel like, especially giving us odd angles of us seeing him naked like that. I don't know why we had to get those odd angles like that. I think if you really took it seriously, it would have hit better. Is what it is.
Yeah, it's just hard. It was just it happened at a faulty moment. Like Pyoko probably hit the hardest as far as the series goes. Like that was the one thing that really got me. Everything else, it was a come and go basis. It's hard to hit on these type of series, especially whenever they're on Toonami. I want to see the day that Toonami can get something that is like triple A, big baller. Like they need their own Dan to Dan. And I feel like it's not on par, but it's good. It is very good. It's very good canon content, and that deserves some of its own. Um, Gosh, we're at an hour 5 minutes. My goodness. Um, yeah, I'm gonna get straight away to my rating. I gotta say, as far as this episode, this series, I'm gonna say it's an 8.7. That's really high scale, honestly, for these Toonami originals. They come out of the love of our heart for the most part, but at the same time, you gotta compare it to the big monsters in the anime world right now. It's hard to compete. It's just so hard to compete. But I'm glad that Toonami was able to put their hat in the ring and get this on their network. And they're the first one. They were the first ones before it hit Hulu. They were the first, and that is big. Uh, yeah, shout out to Toonami. Shout out to the creator doing those like little fan arts at the end of each episode. I feel like that was another big reason to even support it in the first place. And the biggest thing of all, Sport Toonami, Cartoon Network, Adult Swim. I know they're like billionaire companies or whatever. At the end of the day, eventually things could go, but I love it. I love it. I love it anyway.
I would actually rate this episode as I rated the series. I'm gonna rate this episode a 9. Definitely, it had some flaws here and there, but overall, it was a nice little bow to wrap on top of the entire series.
Yeah. Hey, if there's one thing they could take from Ninja Kazooie, where's the Rooster Fighter video game? I need that. That'd be sick. Fighting
Oh
game.
man,
Yeah, yeah. That's what we need. I feel like it might happen, and next week they might drop it, dude. That would be crazy. What if they're like coming out right now? The Rooster Fighter fighting game. Play as your favorite rooster.
oh boy,
Cooking to
it's
us.
probably gonna be another arena fighter like all the other big name shonen anime
Yeah,
games, and it's mostly going to be Bandai Namco to do it. Guarantee you, it's going to be Bandai Namco doing those arena type tournament type things.
yeah, it definitely would, and I feel like that would be such a funny concept. It would be so good.
They
Well,
could really, what they could really do with it is make it like a parody of the Naruto type arena games or the Budokai games. Like,
yeah,
make fun of it. Like, don't copy everything. Just make fun of the genre.
yeah, I think that'd be good. I feel like that's what they need to do. I remember back then, not even just doing, I mean, Adult Swim would do these random mobile games. They need to bring stuff like that back, but like throw them on game consoles. Like I'd play like some random crappy Adult Swim game now these days anyway. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, I really think there should be a PS5 or Xbox One Rick and Morty game. That just would have been cool. Original uh, story and everything with them versus Rick Prime and Evil Morty. Like that just would be just a cool game, and it doesn't have to be canon. It could be taking place in like a different type of universe where it's game Morty, game Rick, that type of stuff.
Yeah, they've actually done some video game stuff. There's like a Pokemon type of game, and there's probably some others out there,
Yeah,
but
Pocket Morty's is what it's called. Although that one's getting taken down, sadly.
yeah, that stuff they just don't want to keep it up, is what it is. Uh, Oh man, I felt like it wasn't too long ago that they were still showing codes for that. That's insane.
Yeah, because they were doing that with season 8. Is that once the episode was done, they were showing a code for the new skins from the episode.
That's awful, man. If they're already taking that down, they should at least put that as a console port. Would have been a good fighter against Pokemon. At least that was like one of the cooler mobile monster. Either way, I gotta get back to Rooster Fighter. I thought it was awesome. I thought it was awesome. You got anything else to add about episode 12 or this first season slash series as a whole? That's just in case.
I will definitely say, if they do plan a season 2, I do expect the peak pacing and the peak animation to return. I don't want the same thing that happened to One Punch Man, where it got sent to a different studio, JC staff, and got to a lower budget because the person that is licensing it decided not to give it all that much animation budget. I do not want that to happen because that could hurt it even more than what it pretty much is right now with the anime community. I say if you can make the animation 10 times better than the first season, then you have people wanting to see what praising the second season, and then they're like, oh, I'll watch the first season and then the second season. It just makes them want to watch it then.
Yeah, it gives people some time. It feels like with one season dropping, you want to get people into it, and by the time you pull up with the second, they get like really deep into it, and it's to keep that same momentum. Once you lose it, it's hard to keep that constant base of people to come back to the next. And that's the whole point. You lose people whenever you have to stop. That's why they have to get this as soon as they can. And that's why they did it. The manga was hot. They had to get this out ASAP because it was the time. It was the time. You want to get it out as soon as possible. And that's just how the industry is. It's about getting it out as fast as possible, ending it as soon as you can on a good point. It's a weird industry. Um, at the end of the
One
day,
last thing
yep,
for
yep.
the finale and this review, I gladly wore a shirt that to congratulate Rooster Fighter. It's my Zaxby's shirt that I got when I worked at Zaxby's to give it for the chickens. All for the
WC.
chickens.
That's WCR right there. It looks like it's. Is that the new Rooster Fighter merge? That's what's up. That's what's up. I feel like their merge is similar to that too. It's crazy. I
Yeah.
am definitely gonna see if I can get a physical whenever it comes out because it's Viz. You already know. But
Yeah.
that's. I guess. I guess we're ready to close it.
Yeah.
We want to know what you guys' thoughts are on Rooster Fighter episode 12. Hope you guys stay safe. Until next time, peace out, guys.
Peace out, guys.